Sculptures, art, statues, basically. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 best sculptures in the world. What? What do you mean we're not WatchMojo.com? Are you serious? Says here on the script that... well, it. Hey, how's it going, bros? My name is Pew. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our educational video on sculptures. Now, before we begin, let me give you an introduction on sculptures. Sculptures are, by definition, 2 or 3-dimensional representatives or abstract forms, and are usually made through carving, casting, and other techniques paired with materials that could be, well, sculpted. I mentioned something about carving and casting. Well, these two are part of the 4 basic sculpting or sculpture techniques, and accompany the other 2 sculpting techniques that are known as modeling and assembling. We'll get to those in a bit. Carving is the act of cutting or chipping away a shape from a mass of stone, wood, or any other hard material. It is also the only one out of the 4 basic sculpting techniques to be subtractive in nature, in the sense that it slowly removes or chips away from its material until a satisfactory shape is attained. Sculptures that are made through the casting method are made from materials that have been melted down, usually metals. The melted materials are then poured into a mold that is cooled over time, effectively making the material take the shape of the mold that it is in. As I have mentioned earlier, unlike carving, casting is an additive process, because materials are broken down and are added continuously to the mold, increasing the size and composition of the sculpture. Modeling is the process of building up a soft or malleable material into a shape that can be recognized. A prime example of a material for the modeling technique would be clay. Like casting, modeling is an additive process, because the sculptor can add more and more of the material until a desirable end product is achieved. This technique is done by gathering and adding or joining together different materials to make an assembled sculpture. Examples could be the various sculptures that are being showcased right now. Like the previous 2 techniques, assembling is an additive process by literally amassing and assembling various materials to make a sculpture. Now let's talk about the modeling technique. As I've mentioned earlier, the modeling technique pertains to the process of building up a soft or malleable material into a shape that can be recognized, normally using clay. As seen by the clip being showcased, clay is being used to form a sort of bust or face shot of a person. That was some mighty fine sculpting, if I do say so myself. From a man to a woman, then to elf? A fairy? I don't really know. And well, it leads to an orc, I think. Anyway, as shown in the video, clay can be paired with water to give it that smooth looking finish that the busts had at the end. And the fact that modeling is an additive process was shown where the sculptor had started to add more and more clay to the busts. Let's go on ahead and learn about casting. Casting, as mentioned earlier, is the act of melting down materials, usually metals, and then pouring them into molds that will be left off to cool and effectively produce the intended sculpture. One method under the casting technique is the cire perdu method, also known as the lost wax casting method. As seen in the video, a base sculpture, usually made in clay, is then made into a mold. Wax is then poured into the mold so that the wax may take the shape of the sculpture, which is the base of the mold. After cooling, a replica of the sculpture in clay is created, and a process known as wax chasing is applied so that the wax sculpture becomes smooth around the edges and such. After which, wax bars or channels are inserted into the wax replica so that the molten bronze may be able to make the replica shape from inside. The wax replica is then dipped into a vat of liquid slurry and is immediately coated in sand. Slurry, by definition, is a thin, sloppy mud or cement. Also, this process is called the ceramic shell process, and ultimately leads to the creation of a replica made of ceramic in the shape of the original sculpture. After the ceramic is cooled, it is then placed into a kiln to be heated. This is a kiln. It is basically a giant furnace that is not designed for cooking food. Heating the ceramic shells will aid the molten bronze through its path. Bronze is placed into a furnace, melted, and then poured into the ceramic shells. Once cooled, the ceramic is then hammered and chiseled off the now bronze replica. A few more tweaking on the bronze product and the sculpture from earlier has been successfully replicated into bronze through the cire perdu or the lost wax casting process. Now let's take a look at the carving method. I'm sure many of you already know what carving is, and as this gentleman is about to showcase, he will show us his carving skills. Yeah, a bit underwhelming, I know, but at a closer look, it is a very intricate piece of artwork. It's just a book divider. He probably spent 3 hours chipping off that block of wood to make a book divider. Oh my god. Let's get on with materials usually used for stone sculpting. First off is marble. It is a high-end stone. It is also limestone that is heated longer in the earth's crust. Almost always mistaken for granite, and vice versa. Usually found in mansions in Michelangelo sculptures. Next is granite. It is a common stone. Mistaken for marble most of the time, as mentioned earlier. Almost specifically used just for construction. Next up is alabaster. It is famous for its milky white color. Milk. Can even become translucent if carved thin enough. Usually used for vases. And has that weird pattern, you know, like splashy in the water. Yes, like that. Exactly like that. Next up is sandstone. It's actually just sand turned into rock over time, when grains of sand become cemented to each other. Usually used for construction, namely those reddish or brownish bricks that you see on, well, brick houses. Up next, limestone. Commonly confused with sandstone, but unlike sandstone, has a more solid color and is actually much softer. Usually used for those weird rock floors in gardens or the like. Yeah, those hurt the feet, you know. And finally on our list is soapstone. Has a smooth, greasy, silky, and milky luster. Like soap. If thin, is actually very translucent. Like soap. It is cold to the touch. Like soap. Its pattern is very reminiscent to that of soap, because it is like soap. Usually used for those countertops. Yeah, like those. There we go. Let's move on to the assemblage method, which is directly connected to the assembly technique. This gentleman here showcases the assemblage method through the creation of that metallic bust, which is entirely made up from the spare parts of a typewriter. Most, if not all, sculptures as showcased in the video and seen elsewhere are in three-dimensional recognition, meaning sculptures are visually interpreted and understood in a three-dimensional plane. Also, there are many materials used for sculptures such as metal, wood, clay, and stone, as shown previously. Though many modern artists and sculptors go out from the norm and use much more unorthodox items such as spare parts or wires. Another new sculpting technique is through the usage of lights. As showcased in the video right now, the lights are seen to flow downward and... Wait, what the hell? Hey, this is a sculpture? Holy crap, that's freaking cool. Anyway, this is a piece called The Light Falls and is a sculpture made entirely out of light? No, wait. Hey, this script is pretty crap. You know that? What do you mean I improvised? I have no idea what the hell that thing is even made of. That's floating lights. Okay. Anyway, well, according to the artist, it is a completely analog, dual-sided Lumia-based kinetic light sculpture. Whatever the hell that means. Let's just move on to the next example, please. Come on. Okay. There. Now this makes much more sense. This piece here is a fiber optic sculpture that has a skeleton, which is a tree, that serves as a support for the wires that give off the flashing lights, as seen when the lights dim right about now. See? Beautiful, ain't it? Well, I've covered a huge chunk about sculptures already, so I hope everyone enjoyed my presentation. And I hope you learned a thing or two about sculptures and the many things about them. So, don't forget to leave a like and comment, and if you want more content from me, then don't be shy and hit that subscribe button below. What? What now? What? I'm not a YouTuber. Oh, well, shh.